Hi, my name is Scott OJ, and I'm from Omdus Information Works Incorporated, and this is a brief video on using object-oriented programming. Here we are on a Linux computer with the web version of Progress. Before you get too intimidated by this, if you've never used WebSpeed, know that this page is no different from the coding area found on a character or GUI app development system. The programming is a simple use of a logging class I wrote myself. It is used to be in character, GUI, and WW interfaces. I tend to call the programmer the calling programmer. He or she may not need to know the inners of the class, only how to use it. The programmer that actually makes the class would be the implementing programmer. But don't worry, we're going to see the guts of the class. First of all, notice that a variable holds the instance of the class file. This is what we'll refer to as an object. Next is a simple variable for holding some text. Now we use a new operator to instance the class into an object. We can send an argument into it, and that will be the name of the file we wish to log into. Next, we write into the log with a method called writeLog. Notice how it's part of the variable name separated by a colon. This is only a simple character type. The next is where the method can get interesting. I find a record of any file and I call to the calling programmer the very same method. But instead of character input, I simply say tell me the values of the record. Next, we use the character value to set text message and send that to the log too. An interesting thing of 10.2b and greater versions of Progress is garbage collection. Those who know Java will know what I mean by that, but to give it a definition for new programmers of OOP, object-oriented programming, it means if the object is no longer in scope, the ABL virtual machine will simply delete the code and data regarding that variable, which names the object, and that instance of the object is automatically gone. But I show the delete object log file as a way to manually garbage collect. So let's see the log file that we created. I'm just going to run the script or the program. Here we can see our test, our buffer, start, and the values that are in that buffer that we sent, and then a variable. So here's test, our buffer, and a variable. So let's see how this is written. First of all, it's in a file that has a different postfix, a CLS file. This is how class files must be defined. One class per file name, just like Java. Also note that the class notice that the first thing we do is use the code word class and then match it to the class name, which will be the same as the file name. In the future, I'll make something that explains why this is needed, but for now, this is really all you need for classes that are in the same directory as your ProPath defines it. Now there are three main items to know about: the constructor, the methods, and the destructor. For the constructor, we simply call, here we got a destructor, we simply call another method in the file called openLog. So there's openLog. I do this because we might want to use the object for other logs without deleting an instance. But for the important thing to remember is this optional constructor is called when the object is created. So on the new, this constructor is automatically called. We call the method like a function, and there are a couple new things: the private and public code words and the void code words, or keyword. Which we'll just overlook right now, but it basically says whether the method can be called outside of the function or only inside of the function, or I'm sorry, the class. Also, we use a type return, a void, and this basically says that there's nothing going to be returned, but it's very much like functions. You can return characters, integers, or even other objects. Let's skip down to write log. This is an important feature of object-oriented programming. We can overload the method, that is, use the same name but with different types of arguments. There's one with a long char. Here's another with just a character. And finally, here's one where we're receiving a handle. Looking at the character input is fairly obvious to the Progress programmer. So we'll just skip over that. But basically, this is where the today, the time, the date, and the calling program, as well as the message to be written, is placed. This is the more interesting one. Looking at the record handle one, we can see it takes a handle and then dynamically calls other objects to gain information such as the table name, the field name, and the value in the field. So this is basically that. If you've been using dynamic queries, you have already been using objects. Congrats! Finally, we have the destructor keyword. I usually put this right after the constructor. This method is automatically called when the object is about to be deleted or destroyed. This is either by automatic garbage collection or by delete object and then the name of the object. Here we simply call close log, which closes the stream. So there's the method, and you just close the stream. Hopefully this has been a bit of a biteful of a very large meal. Look for more tutorials on object-oriented programming on this channel. Thanks.